No Jumper, coolest podcast in the world. I'm in here today with up and coming superstar in political commentary, the left in general. My guy Adam Mockler is in the building. How you feeling, man?
Feeling pretty good. You know, I grew up watching you interview so many people, so many rappers. Like,
hell yeah!
I saw the X interview.
Nice.
When he was still alive, obviously. I saw all of the interviews after. I followed for a while, so it's nice to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I was at this like underground influencer basketball game over the weekend, and that exact thing you just said, I was just getting it over and over and over, which in a way makes me feel old, but then also just makes me feel like, damn, like that was a moment in which like the whole world, every young man in America seemingly was like tuned in to underground rap. And that kind of makes me mourn that era because it feels like the world in general is just like not nearly as interested in hip hop as they maybe were in 2016, 2017.
Dude, that era was so sick. And we all knew that you were like the kingmaker. Like, you would have someone, deadass, you would have someone on your podcast and it would blow them up. And it was so sick.
It was a great era, but you know, the labels like stopped investing in underground rappers, up and coming rappers. They just kind of like figured out at a certain point that the hundreds of thousands they were spending to build these artists up was not really doing anything for them. So now they just kind of let them bubble on TikTok, and they'll sign dudes, but there's no like A&Ring going on of like building up these artists' careers.
What about David? What do you know anything about this?
Yeah, I'm kind of.
Are you close to the situation? Are you allowed to talk about it?
No, yeah, I'm not close at all. I honestly had not even heard of him, which also kind of makes me feel like my ear is not exactly to the underground.
This dude
you know,
was definitely. I don't want to like be an asshole. This dude was planted to the max. Like this dude was. I don't know. I don't know about planted. He was talented. He made some videos in his bedroom, and then they clearly invested in him and tried to reverse engineer. Like, what could we make? How could we make this dude a star? But did he do it? Do you know if this dude did it?
I don't know if he did it, but apparently they don't have enough evidence after having searched his house and gone through his phone and all this type of stuff to really be able to put a case together.
That's
so
wild.
I'm kind of like, well, it seems like you didn't do it because every piece of evidence that we have on the outside points to it, but you would assume the cops would be pretty aggressive if they felt like they had a case here.
Oh yeah, he would. I was wondering why he hadn't been arrested. Maybe he just didn't do it, or this dude has a fixer that can clean everything up for him. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. There's like so many parts of it that make it seem 100% like it was him, but then the other parts don't. Like the fact that he was on tour, the fact that like what kind of criminal thinks that they could kill somebody and put the body in a Tesla and then leave the Tesla on the side of the road in Hollywood and it gets towed and then they smell it. Like I feel like any idiot off the street knows that a dead body stinks.
And if he did that, then he wouldn't have the wherewithal to have like traced his steps before that. So something here, something here doesn't line up.
Like either he's a master criminal or he's an idiot or he's some bizarre blend of both.
Or halfway through the process, he turned it from an idiot who had a body in his car to a master dude. I don't know. I think he's probably innocent. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, you probably don't remember the O.J. Simpson trial as vividly as I do. But
I wasn't alive.
Right. But Kato Kalin was like the guy who lived in the back house who went to get McDonald's with O.J. Simpson right before the murders took place. And I actually have a clip coming out of him commenting on the David situation. And I'm not sure if like the audience is going to consider that click worthy of like, oh, this guy was involved in this extremely high profile murder situation. Maybe he has a perspective on the David thing.
I'm kind of interested to hear what he has to say now. I think it's click worthy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. So Adam Mockler, 23 right now?
Yeah.
23 from Chicago area.
I grew up in Indiana. I live in Chicago right now. Yeah.
Okay. And tell me a little bit about your upbringing. Like, what were your parents like? Because I grew up in an extremely democratic household where going out and holding signs for different Democratic local candidates was like my average Saturday morning growing up, which I feel like a lot of people don't really understand or relate to.
Yeah. So you're lived deep down. You're lived up
deep down. Like I even have positions like when I hear people argue the anti-abortion stance, I almost am like, have I done the due diligence that I should have done throughout my life to even question my assumption that abortion should be legal? Because I never questioned it. I grew up with it, and it's still my stance. But, you know, I haven't necessarily gone out of my way to try to hear out the other side of that.
Yeah, so I grew up in a pretty liberal household, but it was also like there were differentiations in beliefs. So my mom had me when she was 15 years old, which is crazy. She's still super young, obviously. My mom was 15, my dad was 16, and they had to basically figure out how to raise me while my mom was getting her PhD. But something that a lot of people in my audience don't know is my dad is Muslim.
Right.
My grandpa is from Syria and moved from Syria in the late 80s, early 90s. And when I was a kid, I remember my mom sitting me down. I must have been like 7 or 8. And she was like, listen, I know that you go to Friday prayer every single week with your grandpa and your dad. I know you go to the mosque, but you can choose which religion you want to be. You don't have to be Muslim. You don't have to be Christian. You can choose. And today I'm agnostic, but that basically opened my mind to the idea that I can choose different beliefs. I don't have to be trapped into one ideology. So that's diversity in religion combined with my parents being pretty young, combined with my family being pretty liberal, I think was a good mix for me to have a good grasp on politics at a young age. So my channel that I run now with like 1.7 million subscribers, I made that when I was 9 years old. I used to post these dumb Minecraft videos, dumb Call of Duty cut comms, legit. Like I wanted to be Nate Shot when I was 9 years old. I would make a bunch of videos, watch Optic, watch Phase, and I learned how to edit really effectively. And then in 5th grade, I got kicked out of class for debating my teacher on gay marriage. I remember like I wanted gay marriage to be legalized, and my teacher was telling me, no, people choose to be gay. We don't want it to be legal. I don't know why we were arguing about this.
Wow, I feel like no teacher in their right mind would tell their kids that in this day and age. Dude, that's interesting.
It was like a whole thing, and I remember I got in trouble. I think I was being disruptive or whatever. But yeah, you can't really do that nowadays. The point is, when I got to high school, I was like, wait a minute, I don't want to do Minecraft videos. I want to get girls. I want to be a normal person. I graduated and I realized I can still edit very well. I can talk politics very well. All of these things combine into like a skill set that I can use to go to Trump rallies and talk to people. So I went to my first Trump rally in 2023. I didn't have any cameramen, so I just emailed a bunch of people in Iowa, 2 states over, and I was like, hey, are you free this weekend? No one responded except for one dude. And he was like, this is my only free weekend. You have no work on your channel. It's all private, but let's go try it. Like 2 or 3 years later, that dude is my main camera guy. So, wow, dude, the way it all linked up was pretty cool. It was me making videos at a young age, my parents being really open-minded and supportive and saying, listen, like you can believe what you want. And then those skills that I was unknowingly gathering that 12 years later added up to me being here. And like I said, I just introduced like Obama on a volunteer call. It's like, who would have known?
That is amazing, because like when I think about it, when I was in junior high school age, like that's the kind of thing that I probably would have got into if it didn't feel absolutely impossible. Because I was born in 1983, so it's like by the time I'm in high school, we're just kind of getting online. There's no real like online video or anything like that. But that's so sick that you were able to identify this at such a young age and really take advantage of that. Because sometimes I think about the fact that like the age I grew up in, everything like was just so on hard mode. Like, if you wanted to travel, it was just unbelievably difficult. And so many friends of mine my age have just these horror stories about trying to go out of town for a BMX contest or a concert or whatever. And it's just like, you just had to be like really lucky / intelligent to get in those types of situations and pull them off effectively. And for you to have like realized how easy it would be to get a foothold in this game is pretty incredible.
Well, dude, it's like it's a double-edged sword, I feel like. So it was harder to do things like this when you were growing up, but there
was nobody else doing it.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, me being obsessed with video games and stuff at a young age has now manifested in my generation as being like a lack of socialization for people all across my generation. I was able to get away because I have like good friends. I have, good family. I socialize a lot. But there was this photo of Tyler Robinson, the dude that killed Charlie Kirk. Right. It was a photo of him when he was 9 years old, and he was on his laptop, and it was so sad because it was from his mom's Facebook. Right. And his mom posted on Facebook, I just got my son this laptop. He's playing video games. He's 9 years old. This is so sweet. And I sent that to my mom. My mom was like, that could have been you. Yeah. And I was like, what do you mean? I'm not going to. She's like, no, seriously. Like that could have been you. Like you were also into the same thing. So, I mean, what you're saying is totally true, but now this has manifested into like people my age, young men my age, not really socializing enough. And the same thing that attracted me to playing Minecraft at 9 also took Tyler Robinson down like the darkest possible path. It's insane. So I'm grateful that I turned out where I turned out, and I'm grateful that my parents were level-headed despite being so young.
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day, how me at a young age being obsessed with the internet could have very easily turned into me getting into some kind of illegal hacking type shit, or like if I had had more access to the internet, or if I had a little bit worse role models, I could have easily seen it going in like a much worse direction. But that is the opportunity that's there for you when you have this much information at your fingertips.
Now you've created an empire, though. I mean, this place is sick. What you've created is amazing. Yeah.
Thanks so much. In terms of your consumption of political content, like at what point did you start watching other channels, and what were you watching?
I think that, let's see, when I was growing up, it was basically my libbed up family watching Bill Maher and everybody clapping at everything Bill Maher says. Everybody claps at everything Bill Maher says on a show, bro. It's like, chill. It's not everything is that funny.
So much on TV is like that. And then when you're in the audience or on set and you realize that there's big ass signs that say applaud, that takes it. Yeah.
So then when I got into high school, like I said, I stopped doing YouTube videos, but I actually started making music. I performed at my homecoming when I was in like 10th or 11th grade, and I got kicked out because I promised I would bring a clean version of this song. And I brought a USB with the dirty version of this song, and I performed it in front of my school, and my principal screamed at me.
What song?
It was a song that I wrote.
Song.
Yeah. And it was about, there was a line about like smacking a teacher in there. So it was some crazy shit. I was a big like stoner in high school. I was I wasn't really that good of a student in high school. But your question was about when I started getting into the politics.
Yeah, like what was the stuff that you were really watching? Yeah,
I remember it was like the Destiny debate sphere back in 2017 or 18. I was 15 or 16 years old, and I was looking for some sort of liberalism that was like edgy enough for me to get sucked in by. And I saw some Destiny interview. It might have been with like PKA, the Painkiller podcast.
Yeah. Okay.
This was years ago, and I remember being like, dude, liberalism can be edgy. It can be funny. You can be playing games with it. And I know that you were attracted to Destiny's content too.
Same thing. And I think the first time I saw him, I had heard about him a little bit over the years, but I saw him on Fresh and Fit, and I click it and I see him really like trying to have a conversation with all these random drunk girls. And, you know, you got Myron just being a straight warlord. And like, I was just so impressed by the way that he was willing to put himself out there, because when you're on the left, you know, a lot of times the politicians who are supposed to be thought leaders, you know, you watch them and it's just kind of like impossible for you to imagine your Joe Rogan loving friends appreciating Hakeem Jeffries.
Dude, our side is lame as fuck. And like the thing is, Hakeem Jeffries is a good political operator.
Right.
Nothing against him. He's a good political operator, but for like 2005,
yeah.
Like, if it was 2005, this dude would be on top of his game, and he still is doing well during the shutdown. He's doing well. Credit where credit is due. But yeah, dude, some of our leaders are really weak, are really, not him, but like are really boring as well. And that's what I think. Part of my philosophy when I go on TV or when I'm doing these CNN debates is don't be boring, grab attention, and be captivating. And people on Twitter are always like, why is this 23-year-old doing better than many of the politicians in the party at explaining these things? And I ask the same effing question. Why do I have to explain it like this? And our politicians can't do that. So Destiny was, I think, one of the first people who captivated me in the political sphere. From there, there's just the entire political online sphere that you can enter. There's so many people that you can watch or learn from, so many different debates. I like Sam Harris a lot.
Me too. That's pretty much my lifetime goat.
Yeah.
I've been paying the $10 a month for as long as you could pay the $10
since you were holding up those signs on Saturday mornings.
If I could have, no, but I was reading his books in like 2007 or 8 or whatever.
Like The Loss of Faith. What's it? The Faith.
The End of Faith.
The End of Faith. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. He's that dude's really good, and we need more liberals that are like that are edgy. I mean, a little strategy thing. I did a debate with Michael Knowles called Bar Fight, where it was 50 Trump supporters in a bar, and they were all drunk with hats on, like yelling stuff at me. It was fun. Shit. And during it, I started to call Trump retarded. And I was like, you guys all like a retard. Trump is so retarded. And people in my audience were mad. But that's the type of liberalism that I think needs to come back, where we're a little bit edgy, where we're able to say things where I don't know, like I just feel like our side is so damn lame, and young men need to be won over by a little bit of edginess.
Yeah, and that's one thing we've seen throughout Trump's reign over all these years, is that it's like, to a large percentage of men, we've just kind of like allowed the right to paint this image of the left that is, you know, shrieking blue-haired feminists crying and in the streets and stuff like that. And it's just, there has to be a version of it that is a little bit more masculine. And I think we're at the point where even the most diehard progressive feminists are going to acknowledge that, because it's clearly some kind of cognitive gap between the average young man and liberalism, even though I think like ultimately it is the cause that benefits them the most and they have the most to gain from it. And even, you know, I feel like once you start dissecting Trump's actual plan for America, like a huge percentage of people are not really on board with it, even when you're talking about angry young men who spend too much time online. It's just like once you start getting into immigration and abortion, you realize that they just don't really like have super strong feelings about these things, but that they buy into this idea that in order to be a good masculine man, like imagine me telling the Nelk boys that I was voting for Kamala Harris.
Yeah, bro.
It's just like, even as I'm saying it, I'm just like, God damn, I can't even imagine what you think of me as I say this. Yeah.
They would literally call you, I don't know, like a pussy. That's what they do.
No, yeah, probably. Yeah.
But the thing is, there needs to be a version of liberalism where we're aggressive, but aggressively standing up for the rights of minorities. Like, why can't we explain, like, why can't we stand up for trans people and for immigrants and gay people, whoever we want to stand up for, people who are like minorities in America, without being insufferable or suffocating about it? There has to be an aggressive way. So when I'm calling somebody like Michael Knowles or his audience a retard, I'm only doing that because they previously want to take rights away from gay people. Like, I'm so sick of them being able to say absurd stuff, hateful stuff, and I'm not able to fire back on the same playing field or be a little bit edgy. So we need to be edgy and stand up for these rights. But also with young men, like Trump's approval rating among young people is dropping drastically. People don't want to see deportations happen where like moms are pulled out of their jobs or kids are like snatched on the way to school. This is not what people want to see. We want to see people who are here illegally and have committed crimes. If you're an actual like violent criminal, that's a different story. Violent criminals can get out of this country, but the idea that Americans or young Americans want to see these deportations is insane. Trump's messing up the economy for my generation a lot. The thing is, just to be candid though, like Trump has that air of masculinity that no Democrat has. My audience will get mad when I say this, but he's still Moggs. He's still kind of like, he looks tougher than almost every Democrat, despite him being a whiny baby. You know what I mean? Yeah,
and it's easy to come off as a tough guy when you're basically ruling as like a strongman style leader, and you clearly just like don't give a about any other country besides yourself, and you're willing to sort of like publicly humiliate world leaders and stuff. It's just kind of like doing all these alpha male things, but it's like so much of our society has lost track of the fact that he's also a horrible person and clearly has no integrity, doesn't care about anything besides himself, is really embroiled in like we can even just toss aside the felony convictions, the sexual harassment, the whatever. It's just like so much easier to focus on the just lying and the selfishness and the fact that like you know, when you look at the things that people on the left get criticized for, it's like almost impossible. You know, Hassan really should not be held to like, you know, the highest standard as just a Twitch streamer, but this imaginary dog choking thing, which I've done enough research to like try to figure out, is there any truth to this? It seems like there's not. But meanwhile, you could imagine that Trump could have 10 dogs that are all being electrocuted on a daily basis, and they're just, we would be absolutely ineffectual in trying to make that a big issue.
Blip in the radar. They would start justifying it, and they would win that narrative justifying it too. Like people en masse would start to think it's okay. It's messed up. I think that when it comes to the double standard, I've argued with people who try to hold me to a higher standard than Trump. Like Trump is posting these effing AI videos all the time
of him as the king, especially lately.
Of him as the king, and there's a crazy double standard. I mean, just think about this. Biden's wealth increase during his presidency, it went from $8 million to $11 million. I just did a Jubilee 1v20, so I have all these random facts in my head. We could talk about the 1v20 too. But one of the things I was researching was corruption. And Biden's net worth went from $8 million to $11 million. That was just like real estate assets, investments that increased throughout the 4 years. It's normal, a $3 million increase. Trump's net worth has gone from $4.3 billion to $7.3 billion over the last 9 months. He's made $3 billion, and it's mostly off this untraceable crypto named Trump coin. Like this dude leveraged his inauguration to start Trump coin. the hype of his inauguration to start Trump coin. Then they started Melania coin the next day. And it's untraceable to such an extent that other countries, some of them are actually openly saying we're funneling money into this and they're trying to get favors, but other countries can funnel money in such an untraceable way that they have leverage over Donald Trump now. There's this one dude named Justin Sun. He's a Chinese entrepreneur who is like a billionaire. He wasn't allowed to step foot into the United States for the past 5 years because he defrauded a bunch of people. The SEC said, we're going to arrest you if you step foot in the United States. He gave $70 million to Trump's cryptocurrency. And now he's able to have, dinners with Trump at the White House. Like, this is just blatant quid pro quo, blatant corruption. But the double standard exists to such an extent that people think both sides are basically corrupt. Both sides are the same.
And we could compare the Trump crypto coin to like Hunter Biden's laptop, which we had to hear about every day for months and months and months, which I don't know if you caught Hunter Biden on Channel 5 a few months ago, but ultimately just really turned out to be like a complete nothing burger. Like he's a up dude. Yeah, he was having weird orgies and doing crack and shit. Sure, but I mean, what does that really mean for our country?
Don't we all?
But yeah, don't we all? But meanwhile, like, I mean, I feel like probably CNN and all these big media companies were trying to make a stink out of the Trump crypto coin, but at least online, I mean, it was a blip.
Yeah. No, we are so bad at controlling the narrative. Did you see that photo or the video that Trump posted of himself pooping on All Americans, like Harry Sisson and everything? Did you see this AI video?
I think, yeah.
He was in a fighter jet and there's like shit coming out or whatever. And it's because during those No Kings protests, my theory is he lost control of the headlines and the narrative for about 12 hours while all the No Kings protests were happening. Everyone was out there protesting. So he thought to himself, what can I post that's so outrageous, that's so effing crazy? The narrative will shift back to me. So he posted this crazy AI video of himself literally just pooping on the heads of a bunch of Americans. And it worked. Now every single news channel is covering that. And the entire message of No Kings has been diluted by Trump's craziness. So this dude, for as much as like I hate on him, he's very savvy in how he controls the narrative, directs the narrative, and Democrats have got to keep up. Like the only Democrat that's doing it right is Gavin Newsom.
So yeah, you're impressed by his new identity that he's kind of taken on here?
It's hard not to. I know you live in California.
Yeah.
So is one of your things, do you think Newsom like shapeshifts a lot? I think that's a common thing I've heard.
I mean, I'm kind of willing to tolerate whatever he feels like he has to do if it's going to, be able to give us a ability to fight back against Trump, because now we're kind of paranoid about the idea that he's going to be sending the troops into our cities, which, from your perspective in Chicago, has that really changed things or up the vibe on the ground?
It's up the vibe on the ground a lot. Well, first of all, it's like kind of hopeful in a way because there's a bunch of protests popping up. There was just a massive protest in Chicago. I mean, there have been protests every single day, but it's ineffective. Most people in Chicago don't want it. And it's all for show. Like there were literally ICE and like National Guard troops riding in the Chicago River on a boat. I don't know what they're looking for. Are they looking for immigrants in the river or something? Right. I don't know what it is.
And meanwhile, the biggest problem in Chicago is like gang violence.
Yeah.
And then like what the are they going to do when these killings are happening like totally randomly in back alley situations and shit like that? What are they going to do?
So there's ways to fix this with not federal troops, but federal prosecutors and investigators, because most of those killings happen from guns that come across state lines. So like I was doing research for a debate on this, of course, and like you can actually stop or prevent violence if you stop the flow of guns across state lines and increase the amount of investigations and prosecutors that are happening. But Trump's like, no, I'm not going to do that. What if we just mobilize the military? What if we just have the military standing around in the streets of Chicago? Which like short term, sure, no one wants to go outside when the military's there, but how is this a long-term fix whatsoever? But yeah, to go back to your question about Newsom, he's the only one. Like, it doesn't even matter if I like him or not. He's the only one that's been able to draw the attention needed. He's the only one that's able to get 5 million views on some shit post. And that shit post drives the attention in the same way that Trump's like literal shit posts do.
Yeah. No, definitely.
He's driving the attention. It's good.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, I feel like sometimes I feel like a crazy person because people just talk about LA like it's the worst place on earth. I'm from New Hampshire. From the age of maybe like 23 on, like living in California became kind of like a dream for me once I came out here and realized how beautiful it was, how nice it was. And granted, like there is a lot of up shit, and we've definitely seen an uptick in crime since the pandemic and stuff, even though I think that's been declining ever since. But yeah, I mean, we've kind of like just allowed all these people to paint this narrative of California as this hellscape. And I mean, I was just got baited into watching some Joe Rogan clip from his podcast where he's just like talking about LA in this horrible way. And it's like, especially just like his lived experience of living on some gigantic compound in the valley where I know that you never had to step over a homeless person, or if you did, that's the worst of it. Like, and I sometimes feel crazy having this conversation with people too. Like, you know, yeah, if you want to live in LA or the surrounding area, yeah, you're gonna have to step over some bums, and you know, your car might get broken into once in a while. Like, these are the things that you deal with living in a big city. And like, for all my years living in New York, I never really felt spiteful about the fact that, like, you know, you need to lock everything up. Your bike is going to get stolen even if you lock it up sometimes. These are just things that come with living in a big city.
Have you ever considered we can mobilize the military to take care of the homeless people on the street that you have to step over? Like, what the I don't get why we have to do this crazy extreme shit. I like how you said that you got baited into watching a Joe Rogan video. Like, you wouldn't do it on your own accord. I mean, the thing is, I think Democrats need to be in these spaces. People in my audience say I'm naive, but I think Rogan is still... I think he's winnable long term. I don't think in the next year he'll be like a liberal or whatever, but I think, dude, people like that just go whichever direction the wind goes. If we had a few strong liberals back to back on Joe Rogan, like Pete Buttigieg or whatever, just explaining things in a rational way.
But that's such a big part of the problem too, is that he used to have a lot of liberals who would come on the show. Like David Pakman had been on there multiple times, for example. Sam Harris been on there multiple times. I've heard them both talk about how they've texted and attempted to get in touch to appear on the show again. He's just not interested. It's like, at this point, anybody who really goes against his worldview, and it's kind of sad for me, because this is somebody who in like 2012, 2013, when I was really getting into the idea of starting to do podcasts, this was like one of the most influential people in my life. And the clip that I just got baited into watching is titled "How the No Kings Protests Are Manufactured to Look Organic." That's what got me, because I was like, this is a wild title. And I click on it, and I'm ChatGPTing things that he's saying throughout it. He's talking about how all of the Kamala Harris rallies were paid for, how everybody in the crowd had been paid all this money to be there. I'm like frantically searching, trying to find evidence of what he's saying, and just over and over, dead end. And he's been saying these things for years and years, dude, as if they're facts. It's
incomprehensible how many lies he tells. There's a video of him falling for a fake Tim Walz. I don't know if you got baited into watching this one, but it's an AI video of some guy doing a flamboyant dance, and they AI'd Tim Walz's face on. And Joe Rogan pulls this up on his podcast, no like fact checking mechanism or anything, and they're watching it, and his producer Jamie has to go, "Hey guys, what you're watching right now is fake." And Rogan goes, no, this is totally real. Tim Walz is dancing. It's so funny. And Jamie's like, no, dude, this is totally fake. Joe Rogan is like if my boomer grandpa was hosting a podcast, but even my boomer grandpa knows how to differentiate between real and fake Tim Walz videos. It's fucked up. And he does this every day when it's like COVID, healthcare stuff. And I wish... he seems like a cool guy, you know? Like, he seems like a very likable guy, and I want to like him so bad. But yeah,
I think that a huge part of it is just the fact that he's been so mercilessly attacked by the left and by the media and everything, that he's just completely gone the other direction. He doesn't really care about the truth at this point. He just cares about, you know, going against the people that he knows hate him. And that's like a big part, if the left is going to flourish at any point in the future, is that they're going to have to take people like him, and not him right now, but him like, you know, 5 years ago, 10 years ago or whatever, and like kind of interject themselves in a way that makes it clear that we will be appreciative of him. And I don't know, like I wonder if the left would have the self-restraint when, you know, if we were reliving the time when Bernie's campaign posted the video that included some clips of Rogan basically endorsing him. I wonder if they would have the self-awareness now to not rage out against that. But it also probably wouldn't matter, because it's like you're gonna have like 5 extreme far left people who are going to make a big deal out of it, and then that's going to be enough. Like we saw with there's so much manufactured outrage, like the Sydney Sweeney thing. Like nobody on the left cared about Sydney Sweeney doing an ad where she was talking about how good her jeans were, but then the right just like clicks into place and realizes this is a fight that we can use. And you would think that the left was like really upset about this.
They amplify the craziest people. Okay, to be honest though, like if I weren't so firmly liberal, if I weren't so firm in my beliefs, I'll never get bullied to being the other side. Just like you wouldn't get bullied into being Republican because you have like firm core beliefs.
Right.
If I didn't grow up like that and I were a young dude who kind of had wishy-washy beliefs, I was a little bit confused on which side to believe. And if I saw the way that the left or people on the far left treat some people my age, I would be pushed over too. Now, of course, I'll never be pushed over. I'm very firm. I stood for these things for like over a decade since I was a kid. But like, dude, I've been called names by people on my side. Like far left people have tried to call me some sort of Nazi sympathizer or fascist sympathizer or crazy shit. And it's like, guys, we have to use words in a careful way or else you're going to alienate people. And I understand that it's hard seeing people like Joe Rogan. Like Joe Rogan is not a fascist. No one on our side should be calling Joe Rogan a fascist. Right. But I said that in a video one time and I got this email that was like, Adam, it's right in front of you and you don't see it. You don't see the fascism. And I'm like, guys, you guys are insane. I could imagine somebody who doesn't know much about politics seeing the left and being turned off. And I think that's what happened with a lot of young men. I think if we're going into why young men shifted right, it's not only because of, you know, the whole allure of Donald Trump, the whole like machismo or whatever he brings on stage, but also the left was a little bit suffocating. I have a friend who voted for Kamala Harris and he's liberal too. And he told me the left kind of suffocates him. He says he feels like he has to tiptoe around what he's saying or else he's going to get, you know, shit on by people on the far left. So I guess it's on me now to lead by example and show people on my side that, hey, you can be a little bit edgy. You can be a little bit cool. That kind of loops back to the Destiny conversation we were having. Like he's not going to purity test or like step on someone's throat because they say something wrong.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because I feel the same way about a lot of people on the left. Like, you know, I see Hassan say things that I don't agree with, but ultimately as somebody on the left, I'm not going to run out to like criticize him for saying something I disagree with when the reality is I probably agree with 90% of the stuff that I see him say. But I mean, somebody like Destiny, as soon as he has, you know, he's got a whole lawsuit going on, all this type of stuff. And I mean, you know, it's like people on the left are giddy to separate themselves from somebody who's all of a sudden got some smut on their name, regardless of however that ends up panning out.
Yeah, it's not even that. Like, okay, if you want to separate yourself from Destiny due to a lawsuit that's ongoing, that's one thing. But if you want to separate yourself from him because he says one statement that you disagree with or he isn't like perfectly pure in what you believe, that's different. Like I hate people on our side who want to kick me out of the coalition because I've said one thing. But either way, all that being said, the right is way worse right now and fascism is on the rise. So I spend the majority of my time focusing on the Republicans because I think that that's more important. But there's going to be a time when I want to lead by example on my side and say, listen, we got to be a little bit more cool. We got to be a little bit more open and laugh a little bit more. I just did Jesse Lee Peterson like 2
oh
days
my God,
ago.
I watched like the first 35 minutes of it and I mean, I already know what to expect because I've watched quite a few of his things over the years, but I like how you take on a different posture with him, which is basically like, I'm going to be as friendly, as affable as possible because this is a hostile environment, which is something I kind of learned from Destiny as well, because I would see him go on Fresh and Fit and put on this friendly persona. Then I see him arguing with Vosh and he's like a dictator, you know, he's just screaming at him and stuff and being super picky about every little detail because, you know, he requires that level of approach. Whereas when you're sitting with somebody who's a hostile outsider and, to be fair, a moron like Jesse Lee Peterson, no offense, bro, but you're retarded.
He knows.
I had a dude apply to work for me one time, and part of what he told me was that he was like related to Jesse Lee Peterson or something, and I gave him like a little bit of a test. I was just like, yeah, like is it hard to work for that guy because he's crazy? I don't think he responded after that, which I was like, okay, you probably wouldn't have really fit in here.
Yeah, but dude, my strategy with that was like, what he's saying is so clearly absurd that I don't even have to go full debate, bro. I just kind of have to like roll with it and be a little bit I don't know, just sarcastic with it. Like people on our side need to roll with the punches. So when he's saying something crazy about black people and I just lightly debunk it and I say, you're just wrong, dude. That's such a better clip than me like spazzing out. People in my audience were confused why I did that. They were like, Adam, why would you ever waste your time with this? But I don't think it's a waste of time. I think people on the left need to be doing this, need to be building the clipping infrastructure that people on the right have. I always say that for every one clip of Charlie Kirk saying MLK Jr. was a terrible guy, we should have 5 clips of us talking about like systemic racism or Black American history or just the basic facts, because we're losing this clipping war. They have 10 clips for every one clip that we have. And it's because I'm not going to do the Ezra Klein thing. He thinks that like Charlie Kirk was practicing politics the right way, but I think it's more accurate to say he was practicing online warfare the right way. He would clip things up maliciously and spread it to millions and millions of people. We don't even have to be malicious. I just want to get out there, do debates, get these clips. I'll clip this conversation up in such a way where it like brings attention to the narrative that I want to bring it to. And that's where liberals are ceding ground right now, is this online space.
Yeah, 100%. But I mean, like the equivalent, like the equivalent of Hassan, allegedly shocking his dog is like, think about the how much the Tim Pool accepting $400,000 a month from the Russian whatever it, like that came and went. It feels like it's like extremely hard to make that stick. Whereas I almost feel like Hassan has kind of like resigned himself to like, okay, do the disinformation campaign against me, but it still feels like it's lingering on like pretty intensely.
That is so true. That is so blackpilling. That the Hassan dog thing has lasted as a longer news cycle than Tim Pool and other right-wing commentators legit taking money from Russia. Like I think Hassan has had more reputational damage than Tim Pool had. That is so infuriating. It's probably due to, number one, the X algorithm being owned by Elon and kind of like tilting right-wing. All the viral shit will be against Hassan, but also, I don't even know. I think Americans are just so nihilistic at this point that we're looking for like easy outs. It's just that's really black.
I mean, so many of us have pets. So many of us know that hurting a pet is wrong, and so many of us are obviously not willing to do the legwork of figuring out if this is true or not. Whereas the whole concept of receiving money from the Russian government to promote talking points, this is very complicated.
It's like disconnected from us. It's
hard to understand.
Yeah, it's too abstract and disconnected from our daily life. And that actually is part of the reason why when I did my 1v20 and I kept arguing with the Trump supporters about his corruption, I was pointing out his massive like wealth increase, how he's gotten a bunch of favors to do this. Most of them were like, we don't care. Like the system has always been rigged. Like people are so nihilistic. They say, we don't really care. The system's been rigged against us. And Trump is rigging it for us, but they don't really realize that he's just rigging it for himself the entire time, like making himself rich as. But the nihilism is why Trump is in office, because people think it's already corrupt. It already doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, no, 100%. But okay, so what was your mentality going into doing the 20 versus 1 on Jubilee? Because I did see David Pakman recently say that he was scheduled to do one and basically rejected it because he felt like the version of American politics that they're kind of presenting as one in which extremism is highlighted. There's a lot of people who go on the show who seem like they're borderline like full-blown like white supremacists. I mean, at this point, it's like people going on the show and saying that they're opposed to democracy. It's like there's a lot of like really extreme stuff going on, and they're certainly not incentivized to put relatively moderate people on the platform. How did you end up on it, and what was your thought process going in?
So I told them no far right people, minimize the far. I don't want to do the Mehdi Hassan thing where I'm being told that like, oh, I'm a fascist or whatever. I was like, no far right people, let's keep it chill. And it was perfect. There were no far right people. It was a lot of good conversation. So the title is going to be one liberal college dropout, which is me, versus 20 MAGA students. So it was a bunch of college students who were, good, it was perfect. They were just kind of, getting interested in the world of politics. A lot of them were actually the heads, the presidents of their college Republican club. So it was me versus a bunch of like, let's say Turning Point USA presidents across the country. And I went into it with the same mindset that we cannot keep ceding ground in this online clip space as the left. We can't just let right wingers get clip after clip after clip of them dunking on us and saying that MLK Jr. is a terrible person and that black people need to get their shit together without us having our own clips of us explaining, hey, systemic racism is real. Where's the viral clip of a liberal just explaining redlining to a MAGA student? Could you imagine how viral that would go? I convince a MAGA student that redlining is the reason why this, and this is the case today. And by the end, they're like, oh shit, that actually is true. So I just want to inverse the ecosystem that we've been talking about this entire time and at least have some clips of me out there debating. There's going to be some really good clips. Also, debate is what I really enjoy. It's like, I really do love to debate every single day. It's one of the things I want to keep I want to continue to make a lot of ground in the debate space online. I want that to be my thing. So this was a great opportunity for me, opportunity for the online space. I don't get nervous for things often nowadays. Now, I don't say that's a flex, but like I don't get nervous before my CNN hits really, but I was so intimidated before the Jubilee thing because I was sitting in the green room and I hear 20 people out there like talking, like laughing and shit. And I'm like, what am I about to walk out into? But then I walked out and it went very, very well.
It's like Fight Club,
bro. It's
you know, like it's just like you've seen this go pretty poorly a lot of different times. We've seen so many different people on this. It could kind of go any which way. But yeah, I mean,
to me, it was like Squid Game. I thought I was walking on to Squid Game. Where it's like you have 3 hours. It's a 3-hour shoot. They told me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh,
wow.
fuck.
And they break it down to like an hour or whatever usually.
Yep.
Wow. So was there anybody that was there anything that really stood out to you as like notable before we actually end up seeing it?
It'll come out in like 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, one of my prompts was about how our generation is seeing a rise in fascism due to Trump. And as we were debating, a lot of the people couldn't even tell me if the 2020 election was stolen or if it was rigged or if they were like, I don't know, I think it's still up in the air. And I was like, wait a minute. I'm sitting here trying to claim that there's a rise of, you know, fascism in our generation, and everyone around here doesn't even know if the 2020 election was stolen. You're proving my point. And I told them, like, I'm not saying you're a fascist, but when the normalization of this type of ideology happens to a whole room of people, then holy shit. So, I mean, yeah, I don't want to spoil too much.
But so do you feel like Jubilee is acting in good faith and that they have good intentions for America, or was there any element of it that left you kind of feeling like this is a circus?
Well, for my shoot, it was so respectful and cordial. We worked very well together. My shoot went very, very well, but I could see how after the Mehdi Hassan shoot, it's like, what the you just had 20 fascists telling a Muslim guy that he doesn't belong in their country. That episode in particular was pretty crazy. That was not conducive to a better conversation. But I think the one I did, you know, one of the far right people, or it wasn't even far right, one of the right wing people on Twitter afterwards was like, Adam Mockler was the best faith person I've seen on Jubilee. I've debated on Jubilee. So I was like, okay, I'm getting good reviews from them. Hopefully I gave a good performance. I think Jubilee can be conducive to a better ecosystem if the right people are on it. Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, I feel like after that Mehdi Hassan one, that might have been a turning point for them, because I doubt they've ever got that much criticism before. There was like very widespread calls for people to boycott it on Twitter and whatnot. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was maybe like a tipping point where they decided that they wanted to be a little bit more careful.
I get the feeling they realized they went a bit too far there, or like they need to be a bit more careful in the future.
Yeah, because I mean, I grew up watching Jerry Springer, and sometimes they had episodes where it would be like a bunch of random black people and then like some skinheads or some Klansmen. And I remember even as a kid just thinking like, how the can they do this? Like, this is just so unbelievable. And there's been times watching Jubilee where I was thinking like, is that the next iteration of this? Is like we found like a black janitor down the street, and then we found like a bunch of racist skinheads hanging out down the street, and we put them all in the same room. Let's just see what happens. It's like at a certain point, there's got to be a little bit more consideration for what voices are being platformed, I think.
The casting director of Jerry Springer must have had a great time. Like, imagine just reverse engineering how you can find 10 different skinheads. We're starting a debate show in Chicago, and our casting coordinator has been going hard finding a bunch of college students. We're doing one soon. It's MAGA father debates liberal daughter. They haven't talked politics in months, so we're going to bring them together and try to talk. So we're trying to do our own version of like, you know, a Jubilee type thing. That's
smart. Do you have like additional concerns at this point, just given the Charlie Kirk situation? Like, is the whole vibe of going to colleges to do debate style content a little bit altered at this point?
We're going to do a college tour next year, I'm pretty sure. I mean, it was a little bit, I was shaking for like the week after. I don't think I'm the person that they would retaliate against, but I mean, being out in public, I was walking home from the dispensary in Chicago, and this dude with a beard was following me for like half a mile, and I started to get really nervous. But I realized it was just a random guy with a beard, and I was way too stoned after the dispensary. It was literally just that. I was like, wait a minute, I'm just paranoid as But so the paranoia a little bit more. We were going to do this debate show in my apartment, like we had a whole room built, but we decided we cannot bring Trump supporters into my apartment. Yeah. That's not cool. Yeah. And also we've increased the security at my place a bit with like, you know, new cameras, new sensors, just because there was a little bit of paranoia after somebody got shot in the effing neck, publicly executed. So yeah, nobody should do that. Not good.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I was supposed to go to a Destiny debate event. Oh, I did go, but my wife was supposed to go too. And then after the Charlie Kirk thing, she all of a sudden was terrified. I mean, the actual vibe on the ground was so docile and just like not an environment in which there was going to be any kind of tension. But I guess, you say that until somebody shows up with a gun and then things go left. But yeah, I brought like the one Trump supporter who ended up putting on a pretty good show with Destiny, because everybody else was just kind of glazing him. There's this guy Brandon I know, who I actually was gonna bring today, but I you didn't have enough time on the clock. But that would be a really good debate for me to set up at some point. He's pretty good,
dude. I'll be back in LA within the month for another shoot, so I say we do a full hour where I'm not by my own schedule.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
No, definitely. How do you go into having the conversation about Charlie Kirk once the shooting takes place? Because I'm sure everybody is looking for you to, disavow this. Somebody like Destiny has kind of gone in a different direction where he's kind of trying to like mimic the ethics of people on the right from the left, which is, they wouldn't show us any sympathy when somebody on the left gets killed, so why should I be bending over backwards to do the same? Like, how do you approach that conversation?
I get what Destiny's saying, and I like that framework, but my initial reaction was a few things. Number one, it was genuinely, this is really up. Like, there was no like political calculation when I saw the video of the blood coming out of his neck. I was like, holy shit, this is not what America should be about. He essentially got publicly executed in front of hundreds of people. So I immediately was like, I want to de-escalate. I want to show that liberals know this is bad. I think one of the worst things I could have done as a public figure right there is gone out and like danced on his grave or escalated more, because then before you know it, Elon Musk has quote tweeted me and used me as an example of the left or whatever. It's like, no. So I immediately was like, okay, we got to de-escalate. I got to have a talk with people who think that this is the direction we should go down, or that this was great, or this is great news. I got to make sure my audience has moral clarity on this. And honestly, when I saw that video, like before we knew he was dead, how there was like the 2 hours we didn't really know. I just knew the political landscape wasn't going to be the same after that. Like immediately I was like, this is a dark turn for the political landscape. Even if you just want to take into account the reaction of the Trump administration, I immediately knew they're going to use this as a pretext to like escalate. And we've seen Stephen Miller since then has said like the Democratic Party isn't a party. It's a domestic extremist organization. Like, these people will go out there and use the craziest rhetoric. And I just wanted to make sure that, I got to provide some moral clarity for my base.
Right, because Elon called the Democrats the party of murder within moments of Charlie Kirk getting shot, before there was any information to even suggest that this guy was a leftist.
We didn't know it. That's so irresponsible. And that had like 30 million views or some shit. And that's happening all the time. And that's why we're losing this narrative. It's
and then meanwhile, like every Democratic figure in the country, especially politicians and whatnot, condemns this, says that this is terrible. But then meanwhile, they're able to find, like a handful of teachers across the country who are shitting on him. And meanwhile, they're like having their visas revoked and everything like that. But that's what it makes you wonder is like, okay, what even is, and I think this is Destiny's mind state, is like, what is the value in trying to lower the temperature when you have when things are so asymmetric and people on the right are clearly just trying to amp up the tension at any given time? You hope and you think, you assume that at some point the Elons and the Matt Walshes of the world will kind of like be regarded as just ridiculous and silly by the masses, but a lot of times it feels like that's not necessarily how this is going to play out.
Like, they're changing the minds of the masses. It's so the double standard is so crazy, because left-wing Democratic politicians will condemn any sort of political violence. They'll immediately say this is awful. But people on the left, like you keep saying, random people on Twitter are then represented as the entire party. On the right, you have people in power. You have Caroline Leavitt, who said last week that the entire Democratic voter base is Hamas terrorists, domestic extremists, and criminals or whatever. And I was like, I'm only two of those things. No, never mind. But like, and then Stephen Miller comes out the next day and says, we're not a real party. We're a domestic extremist organization. Time and time again, people in power are stirring up this violence, and people on the left are just like, hey, you're using kind of fascistic rhetoric. And then Trump goes, did you just call me a fascist? You're escalating more. So I think the value in de-escalating, at least after Charlie Kirk, was definitely I think that was a moment where it was too far. Everybody thought it was too far, except for people on the right who immediately escalated further, like Elon Musk. I think overall, I agree with Destiny's framework. I've had a few moments where I'm debating on stage with someone and they try to hold me to the same standard as Donald Trump. They're like, hey, you can't do this. And I always try to explain, hey, like, I don't know, the double standard of play, it really makes me mad.
So I know you got an early out and everything, but from your perspective, like where does the majority of your attention go at this point? Because you've been killing it on YouTube. The numbers that you do on YouTube are kind of ridiculous at this point. But then I feel like you also are kind of in the process, like introducing yourself to so many more people, going on all these like late night shows and different podcasts and everything. Like, what do you feel like has the highest ROI in terms of you getting your name and your message out there?
First of all, I appreciate the kind words. So like the highest ROI in a few things. So on my time daily, it is doing my YouTube videos. Like 6 to 7 YouTube videos a day is how I really have my grasp in this industry, because I pull a lot of views and that gives me leverage. But now I'm starting this era where there's a trade-off. Like I'm going to start posting a little bit less on YouTube so I can delve more into the debate world and be a voice in this sphere who's growing. So when I spend time on CNN, or the other day I did this panel with Charlie Kirk's producer. I don't know if you saw this clip, but I tried to get him to condemn the Nazi group chat.
Yeah.
This one went super viral. Stuff like that actually, in my opinion, like elevates me to somebody who's a figure in the party, who's controlling the narrative. I could sit there and make 10 Trump videos per day about this topic and this topic, but when I'm doing these on stage debates, I feel like I actually have control over the discourse. So my attention over the next year is going to be balancing my daily YouTube channel with this debate show that we're starting in Chicago, while also being a liberal who's not afraid to say no to any space. Like I did Jesse Lee Peterson, and then 24 hours later, I was introing Obama on a meeting. Like, what is life? And then an hour later, we're chilling here. I'm chilling with someone that I watched when I was a teenager.
That's sick, man.
And we were about to light a blunt, but you said no.
I actually turned it down. I know. While we were doing this, I was kind of thinking, I'm like, damn, I am kind of turning down just the visual of you with a blunt hanging out of your mouth. But that's okay. We can get to that.
Dude, I'll be back.
No, for sure. And I just want to say, I love what you're doing. I mentioned that I was doing this interview to a couple of different people that I'm friends with, and multiple different people were like, "Oh my God, I love that kid. That kid is sick. Like, definitely you should interview him." And then a couple of other people that I mentioned you to who didn't know who you were hit me up like the next day or two, basically saying like, "Yo, thank you for turning me on to him. Like, his shit is really awesome." So I just feel like you are doing extremely important work, and I just want to encourage you to keep going. Keep your nose clean, because as you know, on the left here, we love to cancel our own. I'll be part of the angry mob if we ever find out that you have an unreleased N-word Snapchat or something from back in the day. Just kidding. But no, honestly, like, just keep going. You're going to make a serious difference in this world.
Thank you, man. Thank you for the kind words. Thank you for allowing me here and being so dynamic when I was obviously having a crazy day.
Oh, yeah.
And it means a lot. We're going to do it again, and it's great.
And I'm going to bring a plus size, very angry African-American Trump supporter who we can do battle
with us too.
I don't think he will. No.
Okay.
No.
Well, no, that'll be good. It'll be good. Stoned liberal versus sober MAGA supporter. This is going to be a great episode, bro.
A handicap. That's a great idea. Holy shit. Adam Mockler, thank you so much for your time. No Jumper, coolest podcast in the world. Click like, comment, and subscribe. We out.